Hey everybody, welcome to Olympic Minds Leadership Without Limits. This is for the leaders who really want to move from success to significance, from mediocrity to mastery, who want to be the leaders of leaders and the masters of masters. And I'm not talking about like owning the kingdom, but really learning to move in that position where you're a legacy, where you're changing people's lives, where you understand the power that you hold in helping and serving other people to help them get to a different level. So I'm Sherry Winn, two-time Olympian, national championship basketball coach, CEO of the Winning Leadership Company. I've spoken for companies like McDonald's, Dell, Anytime Fitness, and 3,700 hours of speaking. So folks, this is going to be a situation where I'm talking to a friend of mine, Aaron Batista, who is one of those kind of leaders you really want to follow. He's a man that you want to listen to. He's been a CEO, he's been a founder, he's worked in retail, he's a managing member of the Ember Group, and so much more. But today we're not going to talk about theory. Like, we're going to talk about things that are heart-tested, results-driven, and grit-proven. So let me tell you, and let Aaron tell you a little bit more about himself.
Sherry, thank you. I am so excited about this. And anytime somebody says you want to talk about leadership without limits, absolutely, I'm in. As you said, my background is in retail and retail operations. I started out with a degree in psychology and organizational development, and I've used my education every day since I graduated in every career move that I've made. I've had some really incredible opportunities to work with incredible leaders that have been mentors, coaches, and the flip side to that is to also observe a great deal of leaders who maybe didn't make that cut as a mentor or as somebody that you wanted to follow, even though they were in the leadership role. I'm so excited. I've been at this for quite some time. The brands and people that I've been able to meet have shaped me, not only in my professional career, but in my personal career and choices and decisions. And I am just so happy to be speaking with you. Congratulations on your achievements as well. They speak for themselves. Your books are phenomenal. I've enjoyed reading them, and I'm excited to be here today. So thank you.
So Aaron, you made an interesting comment right off the bat. You said, you had a degree in psychology, and then you said, it's something that you've used often. So tell us a little bit about why psychology in leadership is so important.
Yeah, it's been so helpful for me understanding myself. I think before trying to understand others is where that psychology degree started. Listening to theories about development, listening to theories on education, studying the great psychologists of the day, and being able to define a lot of my own behaviors and then observe a lot of others' behaviors has been really helpful because, again, in the retail environment, it's a social environment. And I think the success of leadership in a retail environment is the gift of gab, the ability to communicate, being able to share ideas, being able to question the way things are, and then looking at, are there other ways? And there are always other ways. So I shared my sort of background, my educational background, with every colleague, with every person that I've been able to work with in one way or another, whether it is through behavior or whether it is through educating people. I'm a big advocate of sharing books. I'm a big advocate of podcasts, obviously, for people to be able to hear outside of the organization that they're in what's happening in the world.
I'm one of those people. I didn't get a degree in psychology, but I have everything. Personal development books have been like my sleeping partner. They're my wake up partner. They're the things that got me out of deep depression when I just started reading and reading and reading. And one of the things that I asked 200 leaders in my book, Winning Leadership, 7 Secrets to Being a Truly Powerful Leader, I asked the question, what is the biggest challenge you've ever had to face? 200 people. And they all said the same, 80%. 80% of them said myself. Like they knew that the biggest challenge that they had in becoming successful wasn't something out there. It was something in here. It was themselves. So, you and I have talked a little bit about this before, about the beliefs that we hold and how those beliefs that we have prevent us from moving forward. What was the biggest belief that you had to overcome to get to your success?
That is such a great question. I would say the confidence to be able to navigate an entirely different population, whether it was people right out of college, whether it was career professionals who've been at it for 40 plus years. I use Gucci as an example. I was brought in to manage a team of people who were decades older than I was.
Wow.
And to do that credibly, I had to be a listener. I had to understand that I did not know the answers to a lot of the questions, but we were going to get there together. And I think that ability to know in yourself that you're in a learning role, even if you have the highest title in an organization, if you think you've been there and you know everything, you are in for it. And I think psychology, for myself personally, has helped me identify when is it time to act and when is it time to listen. And then how do you let that learning in? And when you don't know something, don't pretend that you know something. Actually go and learn it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the things I love is that, when the teacher becomes the student and the student becomes a teacher, and if you're welcome to that thought, if you're welcome to the idea that you don't have to know it all, that you're constantly a student of what's going on, that you can be the teacher and the student, or the leader and the student at the same time, if you can really get into that philosophy, you're going to be a lot better off.
For me, a lot of the leaders that I've followed, that I've been mentored by, are educators. They're either educators by profession, like Anita Roddick from The Body Shop, who started as a teacher and then became a business leader, but used the educational system and mindset and thinking to engage. Right. Or people who'd been educated through the military that came up through, a very different set of disciplines and then ended up in a fashion business like Paul Sharon and Liz Claiborne. So you have, these really exciting, dynamic people that you can tap into, because the other part from, I think, great leadership is accessibility. People being available to you, people making the time, people being present, whether you're in a quarterly meeting or a board meeting, or, you have a moment with someone in a leadership opportunity to take that moment and better yourself with it.
Right. So there's two things that come to mind. We're talking about that. One is when I was an Olympic athlete, and I never had a coach sit down with me in my entire career and sit down and say, here are the things that you're really good at. Here are the things you need to work on, and not just from the physical standpoint, but also from maybe the mental or emotional standpoint or the leadership standpoint. I never had that occur. Can you imagine 8.5 years of training, Olympic level, and never having that conversation? That was something that was like, wow, you didn't help me evolve. You didn't help me identify the things I was missing. You didn't help me become the best version of myself. And then, when I became a coach, I didn't want that to occur. I wanted my players to feel like they had access to me. I wanted to feel like they could question me. I wanted them to feel like they could challenge me. And they did, because I said this, I showed it was okay. And that was what made me better. That's what made me so much better, is when I was even in my last years, when I was in my late 40s, 50 years old. And so now I'm 30 years older than my team members, who are now 18, 19, 20, 21, and saying to them, what do you know that I don't? What is it like? What is it on the, what play should we run that's going to work? Who wants the ball in this situation? What defense and so I didn't have to have all the answers, because they were, even though they were young, they had the answers. And I think that being in that scenario of not being heard or being seen or being coached really at a different level, and then turning around and seeing the difference that could be made by listening, by giving them the power to do things and not having to be in power. It's really
imagine in your first 8.5 years, if you had that direction, right? One of the things that was great about a degree in psychology is your professors had an investment in you understanding yourself better because that helped you participate.
So go back to the thing about having a degree in psychology.
No, so what I was saying is that those professors were invested in me understanding myself better through the tools and the learnings of psychology. And when somebody believes in you, somebody takes you under their wing, somebody guides you, it's always coming from a good place. It's always coming from a place where they want to see you improve, whether it's self-improvement or professional improvement. And a lot of leaders don't take that time.
Right.
And if you do that, there's the old expression, and I love it. We went out to hire employees, but people showed up instead. And
Exactly.
I think sometimes CEOs avoid HR like the plague, right? It's just not their forte. They may not be a people person, but when you're the leader of an organization, you have to stretch yourself. You have to make yourself uncomfortable and put yourself out there and be available and share your wisdom.
Right.
The reason you, Sherry, are doing the jobs that you're doing now and coaching the people you're coaching is you're proven. And a lot of people are proven in their roles. They just may not share how they got there. And everybody wants to hear that.
Right. I mean, it's this moment of understanding that as your leader, it's no longer you're an expert in the field of something. Now you have to shift to be an expert in people.
Sure.
It's about people, and it's about learning to connect with them, learning to bring out the best in them, learning to motivate them, learning what inspires them, learning, like you said, learning to listen to them. It's a different thing altogether. It's no longer about, I know how to run this widget, or I understand how to, as a leader, you've got people who can do that all around you, but you've got to be able to be that vision, the visionary. You've got to see the vision. You've got to convince people that the vision can be real. It's a whole different thing. And it all starts with people. Like, it's the relationship skills that you have to have, So if you were talking, you said a little bit about listening. And if you were talking about, like, what's a great relationship skill that you can have that really, truly makes a difference to everybody that's around you?
I think being present and being engaged. I think, especially in American business, as I've grown up in it and I've seen it, people want to feel valued. People want to know that what they do, no matter what they do in the organization, counts.
Right.
I think that is really important. It could be as simple as going around the office or the environment that you're in and just checking in on people. Again, it's hard in this virtual world, but you can also do check-ins on Zoom. Right? You could also do feedback sessions. You could also take 5 minutes out of your busy day to meet someone who just joined the organization.
Right.
Things like that. And I think those things go a long way. I think the power of a leader isn't just how to manage your capital in your business. It's how are your people feeling about how you're managing your capital and your business. And what are they saying when you're not there? And I think that's a really important thing to think about as well. What is your reputation? How are you perceived in the organization? Pre, post, and during.
Right. I think the whole thing about the values, people want to feel valued, right? And so if you think about it, how many people can truly live in the space where they know they're like, they don't need anybody to validate them? I will tell people all the time that nobody can validate you as much as you need to validate yourself. Nobody can value you as much as you need to value yourself. Nobody can love you as much as you need to love yourself. But to get to that level of that state of being requires a lot of personal development, right? It requires a lot of time, a lot of investment in yourself. And most people can't get there on their own, or they can. They just haven't invested that time and energy to do that. And so when you're working with people, you have to understand, like, they need you to tell them that they're awesome. They need you to say,
you need to turn the insecurity into security, right? And you're absolutely right. Is how do you individualize that value for people? And yes, they do have to bring it themselves. But if they're inexperienced, they need people around them to help build that confidence.
For sure. For sure. I mean, I just think about when I was playing handball, and we were I'll never forget this because it was just like this. My coach was from Russia. He spoke about 25 words of English, and we're playing. And so, you got to think about this. If I could have stepped outside of this and understood he speaks 25 words of English, he doesn't know how to have a conversation. And so he's yelling at me, Sherry, you are stupid. Now go play. Well, of course, like you're telling me I'm stupid and now you're wanting me to play. It's like, well, that's not helpful. You're not helping me. Like, tell me what I'm doing wrong and coach me through this. And the amazing thing was, and you got to think about this, I was a 4.0 student. I was an academic All-American. I was a valedictorian at the University of Charleston. And I believed him. That I was stupid, right? So you got to think about when you have team members on your team and you say something to them, they're going to believe what you tell them. Right? Even if they've had success in the past, if you keep telling them they're stupid or they're unworthy or they can't do it or they're a failure, unless they've done all this development, like I said, this personal, like you've gone through, like for me, I've had so many mentors and coaches and spiritual coaches and business coaches, and I've read, hundreds of books, and so I'm better at not needing people to value me. I'm still not 100% there. So you think about the number of people who aren't there.
And to me, that's the role of a leader.
Right.
Your Russian coach, maybe if you were fluent in Russian, he would have used a different word, right? Of the 25 that he used, the stupid word was the wrong one because it doesn't motivate, it demotivates. And I think you're absolutely right. Language is also really important.
Mm-hmm.
When you use it, how you use it, who you're addressing when you're speaking to. And as a leader, even when you're delivering hard and tough news, you still need people to get up in the morning and go to work.
Absolutely.
You still need people to understand why you maybe needed to make these tough decisions.
Right.
And the respect that you need to have for anybody who is under your employ, I think is paramount. Because I think as a leader, every decision you make impacts people's livelihoods.
Absolutely.
And when that's real, you need to take that very, very seriously. That is.
And some people just don't have the language. Like Aaron, they don't have the language. They don't know how to speak to people, and that's the difference. If you have learned how to speak to people, like you can either escalate or de-escalate a conversation just by the way that you speak. Right. And so one of the things I do with people is help them understand the conversation. So they'll say, well, my boss and I had this conversation. They'll tell me what they said. And I'll go, well, okay, let's look at that. How could you have said that differently so that you could have had a different impact? How could you have, responded differently rather than reacted? What would it take for you to be able to get there? And so we don't understand the power we have as a leader, because you can have somebody who's just off the rails angry, and if you ask the right question or you say the right thing, you can slowly de-escalate that person, right? So it's the power of the question. Like, I think one of the things that leaders really above board Olympic level leaders do is they understand the power of the question. The better question you ask, the better answer you're going to get, right?
That accounts for everything, right? The more thoughtful you are about how you spend your time and where you spend your time, and thinking about who the people are that you are addressing. And I think, again, it goes back to your audience. A lot of CEOs have an inner circle, or a lot of leaders have an inner circle that they're probably quite comfortable with. But when you go out to the broader audience, when you go out to the broader community, you need to make sure that that message works for 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, etc. And you were talking about, learning from young athletes today. Young athletes today have very different training routines than you and I did when we were growing up. And their stamina and their abilities have been more fine-tuned and more honed, I think, than in the past. Nutrition's playing a bigger part. Your your access to information is playing a bigger part. So I think all of those things, when I'm talking to younger people, and it's so funny to be in a place where you're saying I'm talking to younger people because I still think of myself as quasi young. You have to know who they are and how they're spending their time and what's on their minds.
Right.
And that goes back, I think, to that respect and value of recognizing who somebody is in your organization.
I think that goes back to, that really is about how you got to spend time with people to know people.
Sure.
And if you're not spending time with people, you don't know your people. There was a moment, Aaron, that when I was still coaching basketball, and I had a team that did not get along. I mean, they fought like crazy. And it felt like every day I'd go to practice and I'd put like a Band-Aid on this huge gaping wound. I just couldn't, there was always a conflict. So we were going into like the national tournament and we were not connected. So we did this exercise, and it took a long time because we were trying to connect. And so one of the questions we asked was, the thing that nobody knows about me is. And we had 15 people sitting in the circle, and we went around 10 times. And the rule was there was no repeats. So you couldn't say the same thing again and again and again. There was no repeats. And so it started out with, people saying stuff like, well, nobody knows I like the color pink, or nobody knows that my favorite vegetable is asparagus. Nobody knows. But by the time I got to the 8th round, people are starting to reveal like deep things about themselves. And I'm listening to these people say things, and I go, I should have known that about this kid. Like, how did I not know these really, like, I mean, my eyes were opened as to why they were who they were, why they behaved in the way they behaved, why we were struggling as a team, is because that young person had been through something. Their best friend committed suicide. They were sexually assaulted in grade school. They had father and 2 brothers in prison. I was like, how did I not know this? I'm sitting there going, I should have known this, because it makes so much difference in how they, how they were showing up. And now I can understand, like, and my empathy went like out the door, because I was like, oh my gosh, like I could have been talking to this person at a whole different level. I could have been helping them in a whole different way had I known this information about them. And so, it was a big wake up call for me to get to know my people more.
Sherry, I love that exercise. First of all, I think that's but it's understanding walks of life, and everybody may be working for the same brand, but they're all coming at it from a different place. Yeah. And their expectations are different. Their needs are different. Their learning styles are different.
Right.
So as much as you may not have had an education in psychology formally, as you're growing as a leader, you are getting an education in psychology formally, because the people who are part of your team that are following you as a leader all need different parts of you.
Right.
And that takes time, and it takes effort, and commitment to not just being the coach who says you're stupid, go play, but being a coach that says, Sherry, I'm really invested in you, and I know you can do more.
Right.
Go play.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and this is the kind of thing, like, I talk a lot about sports, but it's the same thing I do with companies today. I mean, it's not that different. I mean, I might not go into the depth of what we just talked about, but, we might say something like, go around, I've done this in leadership retreats where you go around 10 times and there's no repeats, and you might have 12 leaders there, and you have to say, the reason I love this company is. Now imagine you go around 10 times and nobody can repeat it. All of a sudden there's gratitude for the company. There becomes more and more a deeper gratitude, because people are listening and they're shaking their heads like, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Now we might say, after doing that, we might go back and say, what's the biggest challenge that you see in this company? So we kind of level that out, but it's really, and these are great opportunities of learning. So if you have a team, you have a team of a few people, you don't have to go 10 times, you can go 5, you can go 3. But if you're sitting in a room at the beginning of a meeting, a staff meeting, and you ask the question like, what's the biggest challenge you think that we're currently facing? You're learning, and there's no repeats. So somebody can't say one thing and the other person can say the same thing. You're learning 12 things that maybe you didn't know.
Yeah, it's great. And you just gave me a great idea. At Ember Company, we work with entrepreneurs and, sort of brands in the better for you, better for the planet space. which is a really exciting place to be. And they're all from all different levels of experience, all different levels of acumen, but the passion that they bring to their brand, that they bring to their teams and to their product is, it's what gets me really excited today, because there are so many people trying to solve the ills of the world, right? Not trying to make them bigger, but actually trying to solve them. And sometimes it's really hard for people, if you're not given that time to think about what are you doing and why are you doing it, for them to really understand the impact that they're having. When we work with a lot of female forward companies, which is the most exciting thing for me, because men have had a lot of time at the helm. I think they've messed it up. I think it's time to give, I just think it's time for new thinking, right? I just do. And that is starting to emerge as a more and more valuable insight, I think, in business today. And that gets me excited. So it's not even the makeup of your team. It's like, who's on your team and what do they need from you? And I love what you were saying is, if you had known something about someone, if you had just taken a little bit more time with them, you might have been able to get them faster to the place they wanted to get to.
Absolutely. I think that when you invest in your time and understanding your people, because we are who we are because of what we've experienced, and you can't leave out that. You have to understand their experiences, because their experiences make us. And when we start understanding what experiences people have gone through, we can then help them maybe through the eyes of the past, because that's what happens. We view something from the past. We don't view something from the present moment. So when we're viewing something, if you're looking around your room, then everything is defined as something you learned about the past. And if we can understand their past, then we can help them see that differently, maybe how it helped them to evolve into the person they are, or how it helped them move it forward, or whatever it is, or at least get over the bitterness of it. We can help people help themselves, and the better they become as a human being, the better the leader they're going to become. There's no separation from that, right? It's that you have to understand that who you are as an individual, that's how you show up to all those other people. And so I tell people all the time, you have to grow, you have to first give to yourself before you can give to anybody else. You've got to invest in yourself before you can give to people. You can't give what you don't have. So saying that, Aaron, are there certain things that you do, on a daily or weekly basis, that help you, keep in the level of that space of optimism and positivity, and showing up in the world and as a powerful, forward-thinking leader? Is there some sort of routine or habits that you have that help you maintain that?
Yeah, you know what? There are for sure. One of them is I don't have a television. I have not had a television since I was 17 years old. So wow. I don't opt into that type of daily media feed. Social media to me is an interesting evolution, right? Because I didn't grow up virtually. I grew up physically, being in groups with people, being in rooms with people, being in meetings with people. And I prefer that so much more than this virtual lifestyle. I make a lot of time to spend time thinking about what I'm going to do that day. Who am I meeting with? Who am I not meeting with? Who have I not spoken to that I have a little bit of time that I can reach out to and check in on? I meditate, I run, I walk when I'm not sitting down. If we could have done a walking podcast, I would have done that. I really do try to re-energize throughout the day, because I know when I'm waning, and I know when I'm not at my best because of that self-awareness. And if I'm feeling it in myself, certainly the person that's with me isn't getting me at my best. So Absolutely. I really try to be mindful of who I'm engaging with, what's the expectation, and make that time as meaningful as I can.
So I want to talk about meditation because, several years ago, I don't know, I kept reading about meditation. And so I sat down to meditate and it's like, okay, breathe in, breathe out. Oh, I've got 50,000 things to do. Oh yeah. Okay. Breathe in, breathe out. And then there's this, there's this person I got to talk to. Oh, breathe. Like it was just like, and people say to me, I can't meditate because my brain is all over the place. I'm like, well, that's the process of meditating, is learning, when something comes in that you don't have to live in it.
Yeah, one of the great things about meditation is it doesn't tell you to shut everything off. It tries to help you shut everything off. So Thich Nhat Hanh, who, philosopher and poet always says, bring in the thought that is most troubling to you, think about it, and then let it go. And then another thought will replace it. Because meditation for me, and it's more of the discipline of setting aside some time for yourself,
mm-hmm.
that you're checking on your breathing, you're checking on your mind,
mm-hmm.
But it also is just calming. And the word calm in our world today is a rarity. Everything seems so tumultuous, and it just is a moment to reflect.
Right.
And it may be 5 minutes, it might be 15 minutes.
Right.
But certainly you can spare 5 minutes or 15 minutes and make it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me became being aware of the thoughts that were coming in and being aware I didn't have to live in those thoughts.
Sure.
Right? So you can, the thought comes in, you don't have to live in it. You can let it go. Where before, I just think that my thoughts were thinking me. I had no awareness that I didn't have to live in the thoughts, that I could choose the thoughts that I wanted to spend time with. I could let the other thoughts go. Like it was really that mindfulness training, which has really changed my life, Aaron, when I reckon, because we have so many attack thoughts, it's ridiculous. So many things that we're we're thinking about ourselves in a negative manner, right? Or somebody else in a negative manner. And we don't have to live in that story.
No.
We can let that story go when a thought comes in. I recognize the thought is like a thought that I don't want to live in. And I just go, well, I don't have to live in that. I can let it go. I can just send it off and let it go. And so meditation does so many things in terms of mindfulness and awareness and the breath, the calmness, the connection to, you can say to your higher power, you can say to yourself, whatever you want to say that about meditation. But I really believe that it is a great tool for any leader, who wants to center themselves and who wants to give themselves the gift of being present.
Sherry, one of the things that excited me so much about meeting you when we were introduced was you are an Olympic athlete who's now a leading coach. To go from being so focused on being an Olympian, because there can't be much room and time for anything else, to now being able to take that expression and focus and share it, to me is, I think it's unique, and I think it's what makes your approach to leadership so special. When I think about great leaders, they are very focused on the right problems at the right time, the right thoughts at the right time.
Right.
Because it's so easy to go off the rails.
Right.
Given all of the kind of noise in the world and all of the things going on. But if you're really focused and you're really guiding a group of people to the right place at the right time, there's a good chance you're going to get there.
Right. Absolutely. I just think it's desire for people to be better. It's your desire to, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's, doing a gratitude journal or prayer or, meditation or journaling or reflection or reading books or whatever that is, or eliminating, for me, I eliminated the news like 20 years ago. I was like, I'm not watching the news. I don't watch news programs. I eliminated that because 90% of it's negative and I didn't want to live in the negativity of it. Right. So it's whatever you do that helps you get to the next level of really being in a state of being that you can then make it about your team members rather than you.
Yeah, and some of the beauty and philosophy around meditation is you can change with your next breath. You really can. If you stop, take a breath for 5 seconds and move through something, go to the next something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people use running and biking and hiking, and that's clarity, right? Sometimes, and I feel like leaders that are really strong leaders know this, and they make time for that space, that clarity. You know, some may find it through golf, although how, I don't know. But, you know, going for a walk, you know, checking in on someone that you haven't checked in on for a while, making plans with someone that you haven't seen for a while. Those things, and all of that helps make you more centered, so that you're not just in the whirlwind.
Yeah, I think too is like when you can come in as a leader and you're not looking for somebody to give you something.
Sure.
You know, so you know those people, they're always looking for somebody to make them feel better or make them feel powerful or whatever it is. If you're not needing that, doesn't mean that you're not going to be productive. It doesn't mean that you're not going to make money. It doesn't mean that, because you're going to make more money and be more productive when you show up differently. But if you're needy, you know, and I know leaders who are needy. I mean, they're looking for their people to give them value versus the other way around. Like they're still seeking and needing that. And I call it ego driven, like they're ego driven. When you can show up differently, people know it. They just know you're different. And they want to know how you're different. And they want to understand how you got there. And what is this special sauce that you have that enables you to show up like, you know, happy and fulfilled and being able to say, yes, we have this huge challenge in front of us and we're going to make it through it. Like they want to know that and they want to be around that. And I think that's something we definitely need in today's society. We need more people who are ready to lead like that.
Yeah, personally, I don't know how it happened. I don't know when it happened, but I am here to be of service. I don't know any other reason why I'm here. I am here to be part of the good, to help. And I've been so fortunate to be able to be in roles and provide opportunities for people, and even to know that there were those opportunities available to make sure people knew about them. You know, one of the wonderful things about a career in retailing, I'm not sure that it exists as much today, was a company called Jordan Marsh Department Store that had an executive training program. And I went into it right out of college, and it really grounded me on how important it is that if you're leading or managing, you have a great responsibility.
For sure.
I don't know that every leader thinks that way.
Yeah.
And you cannot just go at things constantly. You have to go at them thoughtfully.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that makes a big difference. And I think when you engage and bring people in versus you just being the decider, the king, right? The money maker, all of those things, because that to me supercharges your ego that you don't need anyone else. You can do this. You've got this. That is not the case.
So Aaron, you know, this has been phenomenal. If there's one thing maybe that I didn't ask that you want to share with people, what would that be?
You know, it's look for mentors. It really is. It's find people that you align with or that you engage with, or maybe you don't align with, that you want to try to understand better. Mm-hmm. But I'm at a point now where I'm spending time mentoring students at the University of Massachusetts. I set up a scholarship program there. Very fortunate to do that. I'll give it a plug. It's the Batista Stewart Scholarship Fund. And it works with students in the sciences that are financially pressed. And if it weren't for somebody offering this scholarship to me, I probably wouldn't have had the education that I had. So I wanted to give that back. And I think to me, the importance is mentoring when you can, and then when you need someone, finding a mentor. I
I
think
still
that's
have
a
mentors.
really, yeah, you know, it's,
Right?
they become part of a story. They really are of themselves giving to you things that, unless you ask, you otherwise may never know.
Right. So Aaron, people have a question, or if they're saying, ooh, the scholarship sounds cool or whatever, how would they find you? How do they get in touch with you?
Easily on LinkedIn, Aaron Batista, and then certainly through Ember Company, managing partner at Ember, and it's Aaron at embercompany.co.
Cool. This has been phenomenal. I appreciate you so much. I do. I really do. I knew this was going to be a great conversation, and it was. And for the people who are listening, like, look, Aaron's been around for a long time. He understands what it really takes to be a great leader, that Olympic level leader. So make sure that you take a note on this. Make sure you do something different as a result of this conversation. And I just want to say thank you so much.